Hey guys, what's up? I'm Noah, this is Analog Resurgence, and today I'm taking a look at some handheld light meters. Now, if you happen to be shooting film inside of a camera like this SLR here or this little point and shoot camera here, then you're lucky enough to be using a camera that has a built-in light meter. This handy little feature will actually tell you how much light is in the scene that you're about to shoot. So that way you can determine the best exposure for the image that you're about to capture onto your film. Now, especially for automatic cameras like a point and shoot here, all the light meter settings will be done automatically for you. It will determine what it believes to be the best settings for the scene that you're about to shoot. And a lot of these automatic cameras have the light meter as a little clear window above the lens or around the lens. Fully manual SLRs though take the light in through the lens, and then they have all these manual options on the body so that you can kind of manipulate what you want your image to look like. But if you're not shooting one of those cameras and still want to be really specific with your exposure metering, then that's when you would use one of these. These are handheld light meters, and you can use one of these to determine the best exposure for your image when you're shooting on a camera that doesn't have a built-in light meter, or if you're shooting on one that has a broken light meter, or just one that doesn't work properly anymore. They can also give you a much more accurate meter reading based on what you want to expose for in your scene. Whereas built-in camera light meters will try and meter for just the overall light in the scene that it's looking at. Now, these handheld meters are especially really useful when you don't have a built-in meter on your camera and you're shooting something like this, like a medium format camera that doesn't have a built-in light meter on it that functions properly. And especially if you're shooting large format on a camera like this, which has no light meter built into it at all. So it's best to use a handheld light meter to determine the exposure separately. There are a ton of handheld light meter options out there, but I'm gonna take a look at a couple of really specific common ones that you can get and exactly how to read the exposure information that it's giving you so that you can take a meter reading and turn it into settings on your camera. Now, there's so much information behind how light is determined and measured and metered, but it's not all super necessary to know if you're just trying to read a light meter and understand exactly how to get a good looking image. So I am going to try and keep this a little straightforward for you guys so that you can just kind of pick up a light meter and meter the light and know the information that it's giving you. This is a Sekonic Studio Deluxe III analog light meter. Now, because it's an analog light meter, it has dials and numbers that you can read in order to figure out your exposure settings. Sekonic makes digital light meters as well that function the same way, so there are a number of choices for meters that you can get. There are also vintage light meters that can be used as well. This meter has three main attachments in order to read the light. The sphere is for metering close-up 3D objects and determining how the light is hitting the subject. This is called incidental light metering. This means I can meter for the highlighted areas or for the darker shadows of the subject as well. This flat disc is useful for when I'm metering light that's hitting a flat surface. You can use it if you were photographing another image or a painting or something where the light is hitting it really evenly across a flat surface. Now, this grid piece is used for reflective metering. Now, instead of having it close to your subject, you have it close to your camera and you point it at your subject and it will read the overall light that's coming towards the camera. This is very close to how a built-in camera's light meter works as well, by taking all this light that's coming in at the camera and trying to average it all out. And this is also what a lot of vintage light meters do as well, with a sensor at the front of the device. So let's use the incidental disc as the main example here and look at how you would read all this information. The area up at the top of the scale is how much light the meter reads, and it's indicated by a moving needle. If there is very little light in the scene, the needle will be closer to the left. And if there's a lot of light, the needle will move more to the right side. Below this area are two moving dials and a button right in the center. When you're ready to take a light meter reading, press this button and the needle will move based on the light. If we meter here, we see the needle moves to the right. Below in this area is the same scale, and we move this dial to match the black arrow with the meter reading that we got above. At the bottom of the circle are a series of f-stop aperture values, which are the same numbers that you will find on your camera's lens. Now, on our inner dial, we have shutter speed options for photo cameras and also frame rate options for movie cameras. And on the inside is our ISO dial. So we set this dial to the ISO of the film that you're using in your camera. So if this is 400 ISO film, then we set the dial to 400 ISO. Now that we lined up this top indicator with the reading of our light, it lines up these different aperture and shutter speed values below that we then use to determine the exposure. This light meter also has what's called a hi-hat. So if you're outside or in a situation with so much light that the light meter is being overwhelmed and maxing out, then you slide this in front of the sensor and it will help the meter to function properly. The only difference though is now you have to match the values using this red arrow here instead of the black arrow because there is much more light. Using the black arrow when the hi-hat is in will give you a wrong exposure setting. Now, another really useful handheld light meter that I like to have with me is called a spot meter. This is a Soligor Spot meter and it takes a 9-volt battery in order to work. For a meter like this, you actually look through a viewfinder and then see out the front through a lens here. The spot meter has a very tight field of view. So I aim it at specific areas in a scene in order to meter for that portion of what I'm shooting. In the viewfinder is a scale with a moving needle, really similar to my other light meter. When I press the trigger of the spot meter down, the needle moves to a light value. Then on the barrel of the lens, I line up my values, which again is very much like the other light meter. This ring has the exposure values on the end of it, and then frame rate and shutter speeds here. Then this ring contains the ISO and f-stop numbers. These spot meters are really useful for shooting especially bigger scenes outdoors, like landscape photography, because from a distance you can view specific areas of your scene and determine exactly what you want to expose for. Whether it's shadows or highlights or midtones, you can just take the spot meter and then just meter for really specific smaller portions of a bigger scene. Using handheld light meters is a really great way to be able to get super specific exposure settings on your camera, and a lot of the time can allow you to take much better images than if you were relying on an internal light meter of your camera. And again, there are a lot of instances where a lot of older cameras will just lose accuracy over time when you're using the light meter. So learning to use one of these more reliable secondary tools along with your preferred camera does mean that you're more likely to end up with an image that just looks exactly the way you want it to. Hey, thank you guys so much for checking this out, and I hope that you enjoyed. And subscribe if you haven't done so already, as I continue to post more analog content every week about different cameras and tools and just all this information for you guys out there who are really looking to get into shooting analog formats, whether it's instant photography or still photography or even motion picture film. And if you're at all interested in supporting the channel in any way, there is a link to the Analog Resurgence Patreon down in the description, and you can hop over there and check that out. And any support from that is going towards making this channel better and being able to focus on more and more stuff in the future. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.